100 years ago, a monumental decision was made affecting the lives of millions of Americans and livelihoods of businesses, cities, and counties.
But despite being made into law, it didn't take very long for many to ignore it and violate it, and it eventually became the only constitutional amendment to be repealed.
Nicholas Kwolek has more in this special report.
2019 marks a century since the 18th Amendment was ratified. That amendment banned the manufacturing and sale of intoxicating beverages across the nation. But had it not been repealed 14 years later, would cities such as Wichita Falls be able to thrive, or would they all run dry?
1, 2, 3.
After being signed into law, the 18th Amendment was both hailed and hated. While it was meant to reduce or eliminate alcoholism, domestic abuse, and other drinking-related problems, Prohibition created its own problems, such as civil disobedience resulting in bootlegging and the rise of organized crime. Many underground private brewers and consumers were killed or poisoned, making their own unrefined white lightning. Another big blow came to businesses, responsible for satisfying Americans' thirst, felt most notably during the early years of the Great Depression, when jobs were desperately needed. Though Prohibition is no longer standing, one Wichita Falls business is, in a building whose previous owners, like so many others, had to find a new way to stay open when Prohibition was put in place.
It's cool to me that this building is still standing after being built in 1884 and is still functioning as a building with a purpose.
When Hook and Ladder Wine and Coffee co-owner Bill Weskey was looking at setting up shop, he had no idea of the building's history.
This building had been a saloon for most of its life prior to 1920, and then when that happened, they had to adjust and do what they had to do to still survive in this building, so they turned it into a meat market. Not just any meat market, a sanitary meat market.
Several years later, when, as the song goes, happy days are here again, alcohol returned to 616 7th Street. According to the latest numbers from the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission, had alcohol not been made legal again, the state would be missing out on more than $9.4 million in tax collections on distilled spirits. For wine, that comes to more than $1.7 million. On a local level, mixed beverage sales taxes for Wichita Falls come to more than $313,000.
They go into our general fund. So they help the city's general operations like providing police and fire protection, providing streets, roads, and services.
Without those funds, Wichitans' bank accounts would be smaller.
We would have to shift to property taxpayers if we weren't receiving that money from mixed beverage tax.
And the revenue stream from sales taxes on retail sales of alcohol is even more significant. The Wichita Falls Deputy City Manager says while the state comptroller doesn't break down sales taxes by alcohol, the estimated total is substantial.
We receive approximately probably $1 million a year in sales taxes related to alcohol sales. And we receive those sales taxes and use them for things like economic development projects, 4B sales tax assistance projects.
And that sales tax comes not just from Wichitans or even Texomans.
That's a tourism aspect, and so those things are economic development tools. They actually bring money in from the outside.
The Wichita Falls Chamber of Commerce president and CEO says the more options for adult beverages and nightlife, the more the city could succeed.
If you talk about what's the ideal place for you to visit or live, it's going to be recreation and schools and family activities, and people want to have a drink with dinner as well, and so the progressive cities make that happen.
Yet, ironically, Weskey says it's not lost on him so much money is made on what so many during Prohibition and now are addicted to.
There's a fine mixture of how you have to do this. There's laws and rules we have to watch, go by and watch, and making sure they're old enough, making sure we don't overserve.
However, as to the chances of Prohibition ever making a comeback, Weskey puts the odds at slim and none.
In this day and time, if they tried to do something like that, it would almost be unheard of.
But if teetotaling was to ever be enforced again, Weskey would never be thirsty.
Tea. I like tea. And coffee.
For now, many will continue enjoying legal alcoholic beverages for years to come. And Wesky, like other alcohol-based business owners, will drink to that.
The only two states of the then 48 rejecting the 18th Amendment were Connecticut and Rhode Island. In 2033 will mark 100 years since the 18th Amendment was repealed.
Well, Nick, thanks. You know, that's interesting when you think about downtown, though, all the walkability, other bars that could be coming, you never know.
Fascinating stuff, and you know I love that era because you get to talk like this.
Yeah.
All right.
That's great.
Well,